All right, five, four, three, two, one, and we're good. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. Name still subject to change. We are on episode 7 now, and I was giggling during the countdown because right before I started it, we had a little bit of a consensus that moist is a disgusting sounding word. So that's how we're opening today up.
Starting nice and moist.
Oh yeah. Oh, God damn it.
You brought it up.
I did. I brought it up in the intro, in
Put
fact.
it down. Okay.
Anyway,
Yes.
so opening up with topics. But before we get into that, did you have something to say? It sounded
No.
It sounded like you were about to.
No, I was reaching for my alcohol, actually.
Oh, well, there you go. Again, starting as we mean to go on. So I actually had a bit of a meta topic to start things off. For the first topic, I wanted to talk about this podcast.
Right.
And specifically some ideas that we had kind of batted around the third segment. One that we've been talking about recently, and I figured, well, why not just talk about it on here, was the potential of using the third segment as a way to bring on a guest, a third party, have another voice besides our two dulcet tones.
Yeah, I'm curious which segment people prefer the most.
Well,
Presently.
yeah, the first, second, or third. Personally, I've the positive feedback I've gotten has mostly been around our second segment, where we kind of just dig into movies and games freeform.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I think we discussed this last time, or maybe it was after. We're not actually going too far into games. It's mildly impressive for us.
Yeah, I know. We apparently have a surprising repertoire of movie knowledge and book knowledge, even. I mean,
Yeah.
barring last week's discussion on spirituality and the Jersey Shore douchebag.
Oh yes. Well, yeah. I mean, that's life skills right there.
Yeah. So this first topic is basically just acting as a sneak preview for people listening. That may be in the future. The third segment is an experimental landscape, a place to try and experience new things. And the sound of me pouring tea definitely just went through the mic.
I mean, did you have to pause while you did it?
No, but I did, and so that is now on the recording.
So sorry, the topic itself being the podcast.
Yeah, I just
What specifically did we want to?
well that was it. I had a couple just thoughts around it.
Okay.
Like around what we have and haven't talked about. And that was essentially. I know we've had some discussions around things we could do, things we could change, things we could experiment with on the podcast, and I thought, why not talk about that right at the beginning? Because most of
that potential banjo playing segment we were going to put in.
I would have to.
Like that idea.
I'd have to learn how to play the banjo. We could do one where we do an entire segment
Same.
in Limerick.
Oh my god, we could have like an ongoing series where we learn the banjo. And it'll be like our tough strife moments, and it'll be like an anime coming back, being incredible at the banjo.
We need a
No.
montage.
Yeah, with Banjo Kazooie playing in the background.
Oh my god. I'd have to buy Banjo-Kazooie.
This is how easy it is to make a podcast, folks.
Yeah. just make a few puns and keep going. Can you imagine? I imagine there's somebody out there that does that, though. Somebody who made a podcast about making a podcast. Like,
There's a YouTuber I've been watching recently who does like mock pitch meetings for how they think movies started.
I
I don't know if you've seen them. They're very
I haven't, no, but I can only imagine. The concept alone is making me laugh.
And they got to episode 100 and they were like, we'll do a pitch meeting of us doing pitch meetings, like of our video series. It was very meta.
Oh my god.
There's some very funny ones I would recommend. The person who does it is called Screen Rant.
Oh, I know Screen Rant.
Mm.
I don't follow them particularly, but every now and again some of their videos like pop up in my feed,
Yeah.
and I'll watch them.
Hmm. What were the some of the suggestions for the podcast? Because I forget them on a daily basis.
I mean, some of the things that we've heard about. So the first one, they're having a guest segment. That would be something interesting. One of them was the one One of the ones was the one I told you just before we started, was the idea of enhancing our audio capabilities, having different audio streams so that they can hear you in pure, clean HD like they hear me.
Pure, clean English.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yep.
You would call it HD.
What?
Don't you guys pronounce the H?
Yeah, we say HD. As opposed to what?
Well, so no, you, God damn it, no. I'm saying like when you say the letter, like you're talking about the letter H, right?
Yeah.
You say like H, or like you actually?
Oh, you're saying the difference between H and H?
Yeah, exactly. It's a subtle difference, but I think it.
I'd say HD.
Okay.
But if you're being proper, air quote marks, if you're doing like a spelling bee, you'd probably say H.
I don't think I've ever heard somebody outside the UK say H. Even saying it like I have to force myself to do it. Actually, along that same line...
H is just a lazier way of saying it, really.
Along that same line, say both.
Both?
Okay. So, that's another one. People... This is the sort of, like, intense, hard-hitting topics you can expect here. But people say both two ways. They either say both or they say both. Like some people add like an L noise. Yeah, exactly. Both or both. I now I'm thinking about it, so I'm not sure exactly how I say it, but I remember hearing this debate before. Actually, no, I know exactly where I heard this debate before. It was it was on an episode, one of the original episodes of Red versus Blue.
Right.
They
Do they have England in the Halo universe?
I mean, yes.
Okay.
So the Halo lore is just, it's our universe, but in the year 2550.
2550. Not too far away.
Yeah, about 500 years.
Yeah.
And so the idea is
years.
that it's far enough out. They've invented faster than light travel. Humanity's done a bunch of colonies. They're on the brink of civil war, and then the aliens show up. And it sort of unites humanity against them, and the aliens wipe out a bunch of human colonies.
Nah. In reality, the humans just still keep killing each other.
They actually do that in the series, too.
I don't know, if I was putting on a posh accent, like, both, then...
Yeah, but...
I don't know. But if I'm being lazy, then yeah, both.
But that's the other thing, like, both... If you put it... There isn't an L in the word. So wouldn't the correct way to say it should be both?
Bear in mind, we get people in my own city who say the name of the city differently to me. Like Alicia says Bath, and I'll say Bath, which is quite a big difference considering.
Well, yeah, she's saying it with an American accent, honestly.
Well, no, she's saying it with a Bristol accent. Fuck Bristol.
Well, apparently the Bristol accent's pretty close to ours.
I'm still getting in trouble for this, by the way. every time we release a new one, before she listens to it, she's like, "So, do you have anything you want to apologize for now before I listen to it?"
Yep.
Dear.
But I mean, that's
Has Alpha forgotten this by the time she asks?
Yeah, so you'll say, no, there's nothing wrong. And then in the first, 10 minutes of the podcast, you're already making fun of her accent.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. But That's. I mean, you get that around here too, though. One thing that, so in my state, like we pronounce every town nothing like what it's spelled. Like the town I
Well,
went
you
to.
put like kind of a W in Boston, don't you?
It's here. People, Boston.
Boston.
Yeah, we pronounce it Bawston, when that is not how it's spelled. But I'm thinking of like the town I grew up around, and where I went to college was we say Worcester. It's spelled WOCES. Yeah. So it's I honestly forgot the R was even in it. So like I'll have an uncle come out from the Midwest and he'll be like, "Oh, I'm staying around Worcester." I'm like,
yeah. Some people say Worcester. Like,
yeah, or Worcester.
even.
People will say sometimes. There's not an H in there, but
Thanks to Worcester sauce, I've always pronounced it Worcester.
yeah,
That's the only reason I know about the place.
it's Worcester.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I can say about the accent in my state, it's that a lot of the time we just forget letters. We see a word and we're just like,
Worcester sauce over there.
we do.
But it's not your Worcester.
Yeah. So, and it's like Worcestershire sauce.
Yeah.
That's the way most people will call it, in at least around where is Worcestershire sauce.
Shire. War. Your farmer is coming out.
Oh, it's the farming accent. I'm Farmer Bill.
Oh.
That's not even an American
the
farming
farmer
accent. That's like a British farmer.
From Dorset.
Is that what that accent is from?
Well, there's quite a few different like farmer
Since we're talking about language now. That's something that honestly is kind of fascinating to me, is that with a population the size you guys have and an island as small as you guys have, you have an astonishing number of regional accents.
Because we're so old.
Well, yeah, but so you guys have like double the number of accents we have in the U.S. in like maybe 100th of the space. Like the entire landmass of the British Isle could like fit into New York State with room to spare, and yet
how many states have you got?
50.
Okay. Yeah, I think. If each of those states is a different accent, you've probably got more accents than us.
It isn't though. Most of the Midwest shares a similar accent with slight variations. A good chunk of the South has similar accents. Most of the Northeast, where I am, like, is very similar accents. Boston's got kind of its own unique thing, and so does New York City. But that's because they're big metropolitan areas.
Yeah, that must have been like really well planned to get exactly 50 states.
Part of me is kind of like, that's something that has bugged me my entire life growing up, because and it's not for any exactly, it's not for any specific reason. It's just like from an OCD, like, mathematical kind of standpoint, it bugs me. I'm like, I want 51. Like, I want it to be a weird number, because it had to have been a weird number somewhere throughout the creation of the country. And honestly, it very easily could have been like 55 or more. The only reason states like California and Texas are as big as they are is because at the
other states.
No, slavery.
Oh.
It's because
we got to that point already today.
What?
Oh my god.
Yeah, we're not that far in, but no, follow me on this. Historically, before the Civil War, they couldn't. They didn't. Neither side was neither the free states in the North or the slave states in the South were able to reach a majority enough to ban or completely allow slavery. So the way that basically there was building tension, the way they maintained it was every time a free state was added, a slave state was added. Texas was added to the Union when it left Mexico and then it wanted to join the U.S. And when it joined the U.S., it was going to be a slave state. So what they did was they split my state in half. Maine was created because Massachusetts, my state used to be huge, but they cut it in half to make an extra free state so Texas could join.
Okay.
But Texas was so big that it should have been made up into 5 states, but that would have been 5 slave states that were added. So they kept it as one big state. That's the reason Texas is as huge as it is. A little bit of history there.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
So you wanted like a prime number or something?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, come on. I don't know. It's just I thought it would be cool, and maybe I only think it would be cool because I grew up with there being 50. But before Hawaii was in, there was 49. There was Alaska. It was 48. Like, come on, give me some kind of a cool number like that. Even back in the 60s. No, not the 60s. It was the 20s and the 30s. There were states that were still territories.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought
I don't know why, but
it
I'm
would be
thinking
cool.
about the Hunger Games.
Yes, I live in. I live in District 13, the blown up one.
Oh, really? Of the blown up one.
Yeah, the one that they don't. Spoiler alert for those books, if no one's read them. But there's a rumored District 13. I barely remember those. I only read the first one, and I read the
District 8.
What?
Was Katniss District 8?
I thought it was District 11.
It's been a very long time since I've seen the movies.
I watched the first movie, and with the books, I read the first 2, and the third one I got bored halfway through and never finished it. But the lore was pretty interesting. There was one state. There was one district that got nuked, and it was the East Coast, like literally where I live.
They knew too much.
Well, what happened was apparently Colorado, which is District 1 or the capital, they were like, we're going to take over the country, and Boston was probably like, fuck off. And so they nuked them. Which, I think is perfectly in line with the attitude most people in my state have.
Yeah. I mean, in the English view of America is that almost all of America has that kind of ideology. If someone tells you no, you tell them to fuck off.
To an extent, it depends on where you're going. Like the Midwest, where a good chunk of my family lives on my mom's side, they're extremely polite. Like there are certain issues that if you kind of cross them, they'll be like, all right, fuck off. But for the most part, they're extremely kind, extremely polite, very easygoing.
Until you do them wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of like, but even then, most of the time they'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Most of the people, at least that I know out there, are like that. That's my own anecdote. But in general, every time I've been to the Midwest, it seems to be very, very chill and kind and easygoing people.
Yeah.
But the
very
same
different to over here.
And then you go over to I've only been to California once, and I was in San Diego. And I was right on the coast, so it may have just been because of that. But everyone I talked to there was also very... It must be the weather. It was very chill, very easygoing. Like, growing up in a colder climate on the East Coast, it's a very different attitude to the West Coast. I remember I went over there. I was on business. I got finished, done with work. Went down from my hotel room to a bar that was connected to the hotel, and it had this big open air thing. It was looking over the ocean. It was decorated like, surfer paraphernalia all over the place. I go to the bartender and I ask the guy, like, he comes over and generic like surfer bro. I can hear that cork through the mic, by the way.
Sorry.
No, it's funny because I'm telling the story. I'm telling a story about a
story because you went to a bar. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It suits it. Anyway, so I go over and talk to the guy, and he generic surfer bro is how this guy sounded.
Yeah.
And like he comes over, he's like, "What's up, man?" And he's like, what can I get you? And my coworker was already there, and she already had a beer, and so I was like, what's good at the bar? Like, what's good for, I think I was like, I asked him for an IPA, like a beer. And I was like, what you got for a good IPA? And he's like, it's all good, man.
Oh, God.
And me being from the Boston area, that pissed me off. I was like, "Would you just answer the fucking question?"
I just assume they're high and then just kind of like.
But I don't think the guy was high. I think
true.
that was just his whole vibe.
Well, no one's that like chill.
Oh no. I think he was an exception. No one else I met there was that chill, but he epitomized the whole attitude for me. He was the stereotype of everyone else I met during that trip.
He wasn't like wearing a lilo. Was it lilo? The flower.
A lei.
Something.
They're called leis. No, he was wearing a tank top and cargo shorts.
Okay, that's just as bad. Was he wearing sandals?
I don't know. I didn't look over the bar to check.
That's so bro. That's so bro.
He was. When I say just picture a generic surfer bro, yeah.
You wouldn't be allowed in a bar if you walked in wearing that stuff over here.
Okay, well, but again, this was California in like a beach town in Southern California. Yeah. I was maybe 40 minutes away at most from the Mexican border.
But Kaiser, everywhere's a beach town.
Well, yeah,
we have quite a few though.
Hey, that is not true. I've been to Oxfordshire. That place was a field town, not a beach town.
Yes, but I don't know. But every time someone mentions Oxfordshire, I just think about the swans. It's the one place in England where you're allowed to beat swan.
Wait. Beat swans?
Eat.
Oh, eat.
Why would you beat a swan?
I don't know, so you could tenderize it, so you can eat it, I guess.
Well, yeah, I guess I could. Yeah, no, I think you can eat swan there anyway. I know the Queen owns all the swans in England, apart from... Listen. Apart from in Oxford. So, I think... Yeah.
I'd love to know what kind of fucking contrived political situation led to that.
Well, there's probably like some baron or duke in Oxford that did some good shit, and so she was like,
I grant you the swans.
Yo, bro, you can like totally have my swans. Sorry. That's how the Queen sounds. I can't help it.
The Queen's from California, apparently. Oh my god.
Gnarly.
This topic is just us laughing at this point.
This is because of Bill and Ted's Adventure. You know about Bill and Ted, right?
I know of it. I don't think. Oh no! I haven't seen that in forever.
Right, it's so old, but they're releasing a new one.
Why?
With fucking John Wick was one of them.
Keanu Reeves.
He's going to be.
I thought he was in the original, wasn't he?
He is in the original. He's like super, super young in the original though, so no one really recognized him. I didn't until this latest film came out, and I was like, oh my god, John Wick, the guy that murdered the entire Russian cartel because they damaged his dog. Damaged? They killed his dog.
Damaged his dog.
Sorry.
Did the Queen own that dog?
He's now like going back to playing.
Yeah.
Yo, bro, that ain't cool.
So it's funny. You can tell like what era somebody grew up in by what they think Keanu Reeves is. For me, he's always Neo.
Yeah.
Because that was what like that was the first movie that I really remember seeing him in. Was the first Matrix film.
I've seen all the Matrix films several times. It's very, very rare for me to learn an actor's name, and John Wick in particular blew me away. So that's why I remember his name from that. I was like, oh shit, yeah.
Believe me, I'm the exact same way. There's only like a handful of actors that I actually know the names of and can actually know them by name. Like so, Nicolas Cage, good and bad reasons.
Well, everyone knows that.
Samuel Jackson.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
The thing is, I never watched any of his movies. I never was into Terminator.
Wasn't he the governor of California?
Yeah, he was. He was the governor.
Brought it round.
He was the governor. We're back in California now.
Oh shit. Well,
He literally
segment's just California now.
he literally won that election by one of his things. He's like, my opponent is a girly man. And like that was how he won the election. He just went up there. He's like, I am the governor. My opponent, he doesn't have the qualifications. He's a girly man. I haven't busted out the Schwarzenegger accent in a while.
Yeah, but no, I agree. There are definitely some actors that are just
That you just know.
everybody knows.
Yeah.
They hit the big time.
Yeah. That they just like people know him by name. So, I think the first actor like that for me was Samuel L. Jackson, and the reason for that was fucking Snakes on a Plane.
I've never seen it.
Oh my god, that movie became so Nicolas Cage for almost the exact same reason. There was a budget theater near my hometown that had they did like a $2 ticket night on Tuesdays because that was their weakest night. So they just $2 go in there, watch a movie.
Yeah.
Snakes on a Plane, crappy action movie starring Samuel L. Jackson that became famous for the phrase, "Get these motherfucking snakes off this motherfucking plane!"
Yeah, of course.
And it fucking cheesy action movie, but it was so good, and he made that movie. One of my friends went to see it on opening night. They did a midnight release where people were like, when he came on the screen, people were clapping and stuff like that. I didn't go to that. We watched it the next day. He literally saw it at the midnight release and then came out with us the next day to go see it in the theater.
Yeah.
And he fell asleep in the movie the second time.
Oh well, that's less.
But the thing is, the next day when we went, there was only like 5, maybe 10 people in the whole theater, including us.
Really?
And there was one guy behind us who was, I guess he was, I don't know, think like, I don't even know how to describe this guy to you, but he was like a generic Bostonian. And I
haven't really gone to Boston.
I know, and that's why it's not going to mean anything to you. But
yeah.
Anyway, so he's sitting in the back of the theater, and the first time Sam Jackson comes on screen, my friend stands up and just shouts, "Yeah, Sam Jackson, let's kill some motherfucking snakes!" And from that point on, that guy was pissed.
Oh,
and
really?
he was staring daggers at us. But he didn't see which one of us said that.
Bostonians the best rapport, do you?
We're a very cynical, sarcastic, angry people.
Kind of people. Yeah.
It's just who we are. Anyway, so my friend falls asleep, and then that guy actually God, he thought it was my other friend that shouted that. So like near the end of the movie, he comes down and he grabs on the seat behind him and leans over my friend's face and like threatens him.
Damn.
And I think this guy just had a chip on his shoulder in general. Like, I don't know, maybe his wife was banging the mailman or something like that, but he wasn't happy. And
this feels like segment 3.
where normally we degrade into just telling stories.
Into these kinds, yeah.
I'm kind of getting off in the weeds. Anyway, he threatened the wrong friend because my friend that actually shouted fell asleep in the seat next to my other friend, and so he's just threatening one of my random friends. He was just like, he didn't know what the fuck to do. Like, just like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Anyway, doesn't matter. But that was the movie that got us to like that made me Sam Jackson like a legend in my mind, was Snakes on a Plane. Nicolas Cage, it was a movie called Next, where Nicolas Cage could see 2 seconds into his own future and just use that power to drink martinis and hit on women. It was so fucking stupid. We saw that movie literally like 8 times. Because it was on the $2 movie night, we'd just go in there and see it, and then leave, and go see the next showing, and then go back in there and see it again. And we saw that movie so many times, and there was never anyone in the theater. It was always empty. I think the most company we had was this elderly couple who was there seeing the movie, and they were in like the back row, and it was just us in front.
Yeah.
The most fun was when it was just us in the theater, because we could do whatever the fuck we wanted. And just, you know, talk at the movie and like make fun of it openly, because most of the time we're courteous. It was the Sam Jackson thing that just
Yeah, I feel like on these days they're a lot more sharp on people messing around in the let's say theater. Is that the right word? Cinema.
Yeah,
That's the word.
theaters. Well, we call them theaters. Cinema, I guess, is one of those subtle
Wait,
differences.
no, because theater is.
Yeah, I know. It's the difference between trousers and pants. Because like over here,
No.
I know. I'm saying, we don't call them cinemas here. We call them theaters.
Yeah, but over here, theater. If you say you're going to the theater, it's like you're going to see a pantomime.
Yeah, exactly. And we use both words here.
Okay.
Like theater can mean both, but most of the time when people say theaters over here, they're talking about a movie theater.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, yeah.
Like, and I know, because if I was
Please
telling,
know what I was gonna say now.
sorry, I jumped in on the whole language difference again.
That's alright.
But that's I mean, we could go on about maybe we'll save that for the third segment, the language differences. But the difference between pants and fanny between the different cultures, because those mean
Pants and fanny? No, that's not right.
no. I'm saying those words, pants.
Oh, right. Okay.
Pants mean two very different things between the U.S. and the U.K., and so does fanny.
Yeah, but everyone in England knows that people in America say it differently. I don't think many people in America know that we say it differently in England.
That's true, and I think it comes down to a population size. Like the U.S. is basically self-contained. Like we've got 50 states, and they're all so different. We've got 300 million people, and most people in the U.S., for better or for worse, don't really think about the outside world. Except in like an abstract way. At least that's been my experience, you know.
Yeah.
There's a few people, like coastal cities are different because they have such a stronger interaction with the wider world. But the vast majority of the
definitely
U.S.
found over the years that I've been talking to you guys and the rest of everyone else in the hive, I've definitely become a lot more Americanized, because I remember the first sign was that I was starting to say trash. You don't say trash over here. It is an Americanization of rubbish. You'd say trash can, we'd say a rubbish bin.
Yeah.
And I got told off. Well, not told off. Some asshole in my old workplace was like, "Excuse me, that's not proper English. You shouldn't say that." And so, I every week after that, I just came back and I was like, "Yeah, I was out at the mall with my friends,
trying to find a new trash can for my apartment, not my flat, my apartment."
Yeah, not the shopping center, the mall. And yeah, like even the basic stuff, like you don't have crisps over there, you have chips.
Yeah, and your chips
like,
we call like fries.
Yes. Well, no.
Okay. So
yes.
the things that you refer to as chips, like the real ones, like the thick cut ones, we call those steak fries.
Well, we have 3 words. So the steak ones that you just said, those are chips, or oven chips. Then there's fries, which are the long, skinny ones. Or they're also called French fries.
Well, okay, so that is wait, you actually use the word French fries over there?
Yeah.
Did not know this. All right. We could literally keep talking about this for hours, but we're at 34 minutes, so I think we can wrap up the first segment. It's funny. Okay. I'm going to read you what I had written down for topics. Written down for topics. 1. This podcast. Topic 2. and I wrote this one. I wrote this one
PG.
when I may have had a couple drinks because my handwriting's a little sloppy. California needs more Boston.
Right. I mean, we can go into that in the next one, I feel like.
Those are the two
hilarious
things I
topic.
had written down, and the funny thing is, I didn't actually even lead us into that California topic. I didn't even look at the notes after we moved on from the podcast. We just started talking about that. So clearly it's just something I have on my mind. Anyway, I'm gonna roll us out of this one. This is the end of segment 1 topics, even though the topics were a little bit incoherent this week, but we stayed to a couple very, very centralized points. Differences between the UK and the US, regional differences, this podcast in general, and a lot of complaining about California. End of segment 1. If you're listening during the week, this is the end of the segment, but if you're listening to the full podcast, then you will hear us in just a few seconds. We'll talk to you again soon. And we're back with segment 2 of the TMCJ podcast, named Subject to Change. This is where we talk about media, whatever happens to catch our fancy regarding media. So if you just listened to the last segment and heard us going on for days and days about maybe cultural differences and different regions in England and in the US, this will be a welcome break because we're going to talk about things that may be more relatable or less relatable.
We are? What's the... what?
I don't know. That intro was pure gibberish.
Okay.
What?
I like it. It's become so natural saying when you're like, TMCJ podcast, what, likely to change. Subject to change, that's the word. Subject to change would be a good title.
Subject to oh my god, actually that might be. We may rename this the Subject to Change podcast.
It would be a habit. None of our plans ever work.
We'll see what happens. Anyway, I think what we should start with in this segment is Passengers, because we've been holding off talking about it because that was a movie that was our last movie night movie. We finally watched it, and we didn't talk about it after the fact except to like a limited extent. I fell asleep watching it, but I've seen the movie before.
Yes. Yeah, I got the end, and the loud end credits were playing, and I was like, Kaiser?
And meanwhile, I'm laying on my couch with my headset on my eyes. Like, it literally,
Yeah.
I woke up, I had like rolled over, the headset had popped off my head, and it was just sitting on my face.
Yeah, and it was like 3 in the morning here, or something stupid, so I couldn't exactly...
Yeah, it was like 7 or 8 o'clock. It wasn't even that late here. It was just, I hadn't slept well the night before, so I was just out. But
Yeah.
the,
But the movie itself was not something that would send you to sleep, I wouldn't say.
No. And to be fair, one of the reasons... So, I do have to take a dig at Amazon again here. I bragged on the podcast last week that I had found a way around Amazon's thing by using the Elgato. Unfortunately, audio didn't come through, which meant that the way we had to watch the movie was I used my little clever workaround to project the video through the stream so that Blue and his lovely girlfriend could watch, but they couldn't hear anything. So what I ended up having to do was to turn on my speakers and point the mic I'm using to record right now at the speakers. And to make sure that I wasn't banging things on my desk or making noise, I went over and laid on my couch to watch the movie. To my computer monitor. Yeah. Brilliant setup with one major flaw. The movie's about 2 hours long, and near the end of it, I just started dozing off and completely fell asleep in the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Oh, well, while we're on the a quick Amazon topic.
Okay, yeah.
Just briefly before we get into actual Passenger. Because we brought up Amazon, we of course have to bring up Netflix. Netflix
By law.
fucked up.
By law, we have to bring up Netflix at the same time.
Oh, big.
What do they do?
Have you seen the controversy around.
Oh, are you talking about that weird French movie?
I don't know if it's French. It's called Cuties.
Yep, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, so Netflix
Why do
has
they think they
decided to
can get
dip
away with
its
that?
toe into pedophilia for some reason.
Right?
I
Oh
don't
God.
I do not know why people are defending that fucking, like, I've seen the controversy. I have not seen any trailers for it.
Nope.
I have not, like, I've had friends
I
that are
only heard about it a
canceling.
few days ago.
Honestly, I've been considering canceling my Netflix subscription for quite a while now. This might be the straw that breaks the camel's back, because the
Yeah.
fact that not only are they hosting that, but they're defending it. They need to take a step back and really re-examine what the fuck they're doing with their lives.
Yeah, like so there was a big controversy when the poster came out about it.
Right.
And
And
they were
then
like, no, don't worry, this won't actually happen in the film, like that kind of stuff. And
And
then it
then-
happened apparently like 6 times in the film.
I follow a couple like film critics and stuff
Yeah,
on YouTube,
same.
and I've listened to them talking about it, and they've seen clips and trailers from it, and they describe it as much worse than that poster.
Yes.
And
that's what I've heard.
I just, Jesus Christ. So we've dipped into controversy in the first 5 minutes of this, but I think it's something that it's relevant in media. It's something that we need to talk about because it's absolutely disgusting.
Yes.
Like, I understand, like, if you're say like a parent and your kid is into dancing and whatnot, and it's like it's a private thing and you want to encourage them and have them. This
Where
is
it's not sexualized, yeah.
This is not the, like, even if this is a kind of dancing that you as a parent are okay with your kid doing, which if you are, what the fuck is wrong with you? But okay, whatever. Your family, your kid, whatever. But then to have it filmed and projected to the whole fucking world. No. There is something seriously, I don't know. This is, if I keep talking, I'm gonna get legitimately angry if I keep talking about this. But
Sorry.
but I know what you're talking about. I know the controversy.
Yep.
If people listening want to go up and look it up, look it up. You may want to cancel your Netflix subscription after you see it. But yeah, just disgusting.
I don't think it's really I haven't done research on it. I've not seen any scenes, right? So I can't really talk on.
I don't want to watch scenes from it.
Exactly.
That's the thing. I've been following it like third hand, like listening to critics talking about it and stuff like that. Like critics I actually trust, not the ones that are like paid to review it well. But and I just listening to the things that I've heard secondhand, it just sickens me. I don't want to see the trailers. Yeah.
Sorry, that was because you talked about Amazon.
No, yeah. Yeah, so, hey, look, we found a reason to shit on Netflix this week. Normally we're shitting on Amazon.
Amazon wins this one.
Yeah. Amazon, you did good by not doing bad.
Scoreboard. Yeah, by not doing anything.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to Passengers.
Really, really enjoyed the film. Alicia, I could tell, especially enjoyed it because she got quite emotionally attached to the characters. There were several things that, in my horribly nerdy brain, were like, "That's not quite like right. That wouldn't have happened. That's dumb."
Yeah, and that's. It's funny you mentioned that because you kind of alluded to this when we spoke briefly earlier this week, and we held off discussing we held off discussing the movie like to any significant degree. I like when I first watched that movie and when I've watched it subsequent times, I never remember any of the sci-fi stuff because at its core the story is about like two
It's a social
people.
experiment.
Exactly. It's a character story. It's about one person who's on a desert island and is so desperate that they'll literally ruin somebody else's life just to not be alone for another day.
Yeah. And so, okay.
But tell me
Tell me
a
synopsis of the film before I tear it to shit.
Yeah. So synopsis of the film. Essentially, it's near or sort of near future. Humanity has started colonizing other planets, but they have to do it through not faster than light ships. Excuse me. So what they do is they make these ships that fly some fraction of the speed of light, and they put people in cryogenic sleep for years as they're traveling to these other star systems. At which point they get there, they wake up, and they go to work on the planet, start a new life in a brand new world. But it's been years, so they're essentially, anyone that goes on these trips is leaving their friends and family behind forever. They, like, even if they can talk to them again, it would take decades for the message even to get back to the solar system. During the beginning of the movie, one of the people, kind of a low-level engineer, who's kind of riding steerage class, he wakes up early, decades early, like several decades early. I think it was something like 90 years before they were actually going to arrive at the planet, and because of some glitch in the ship. And he proceeds to just try and find a way to, send a message for help. But like I said, it takes years for the message to get back. He tries to figure out if there's a way to put himself back to sleep. It doesn't work. And he spends months and months like that, slowly, going crazy or thinking of random projects to do on the ship, until eventually he gets so desperate. This is not a huge spoiler, but keep in mind, if you keep listening past this point, there will be spoilers. He gets so desperate that he ends up waking up one of the other passengers, a beautiful woman, who he has in his mind just become attached to from reading things that he has access to on the ship. She's apparently a journalist. She's done a bunch of work, and he reads through her and it feels like he knows her and everything like that. And all the things a desperate, lonely, stranded person will tell themselves to justify what they're about to do. And he wakes her up knowing that it's going to condemn her to death just like him. And it's about, the rest of the movie is just the two of them slowly growing closer, and then her realizing what he did, and then at the climax of the movie, them realizing there's a bigger problem with the ship in general, and dealing with that, and what happens in the aftermath. I'm not going to go too much further because the ending is really amazing, but that's the brief synopsis of the movie. So go ahead, tear it to shreds.
Yeah. Okay. So, starting with the lady that he wakes up.
Yeah.
And I know I said this to you previously, but I do not like the fact that she is, from the moment she's woken up, she is just a damsel in distress. The actress has done amazingly in other roles like the Hunger Games, where she's a bit of a badass. In this, she just she moans a lot. She tries to kill the guy because he woke her up, and she finds out. And she's not a mechanic. She's not. For the scenario that they're in, she is not integral.
Well, okay. Yeah, no, finish your thought, because I do have I have a rebuttal.
And so I do not think so. You know how he, as an engineer, is literally the lowest of the low on board that ship. So he gets the corn meat and like.
Oh yeah. He can't get the gold star breakfast because he's.
Why the heck? He is super. He's like integral to the mission. He is one of the most important people on the ship, and he gets that. And a journalist gets 5-star golden daddy's good girl, food.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like 20 levels of authority apart.
Yeah. So
and he's more useful than she is. Go on.
I hear you, but I argue all of what you just said as issues you had with the movie. I think that was on purpose. All of that was on purpose, and I think all of it is internally consistent with the movie, because this ship that is transporting in between galaxies, essentially, it's owned by a company, right? And that company is purchasing. Like, there's two ways you can get a ticket on that ship because it's enormously expensive to send it. You can get a ticket on that ship because you are, if you're valuable, then you get a discounted ticket, but you're still going to be riding steerage class. But if you paid for your ticket 100%, then you're going to get some special perks and treatment. And so he was an engineer. He was a poor dude, not really like he was like middle class. I can't say poor because most engineers actually make a decent wage. But
more than generally.
Yeah.
Journalists,
I know. No, you'd be surprised what journalists make. Especially like the big name ones. But yeah, so he was buying his way not with cash but with his skills. And so
yes.
The way those things normally work is he's like, they say this in the movie, he's getting a discounted ticket because he's going to be valuable where he goes. This comes out in one of the interviews she does with him during the movie. But at the same time, because he's not paying full price for his ticket, he doesn't get like the good food and the luxuries and things like that. Because the way the ship works is 3 months before they arrive, it's just a cruise ship. Basically, people get to party and have fun. She, on the other hand, was a famous journalist, and she was
famous.
Her father was famous, but so was she, because one of the reasons he wakes her up is he's reading all these big name articles and things that she wrote, and her company was essentially paying for her to fly there and fly back and get the first ever story of somebody who has like leapt through time, essentially, and to write about her experiences.
Freelance.
No.
Okay.
Well,
I suppose she does.
Actually, you know what? She may have been freelance, but the point was she was essentially flying business class.
Yeah.
So her ticket was paid for 100%, so she got like the luxury treatment. That's why it wasn't that she was more valuable to the trip. It was that she paid more for her ticket. It's like, if you're on an airline in the modern day, flying somewhere, it doesn't matter if you're an aeronautical engineer. If you only paid for a coach ticket, or you got a discounted ticket, or you paid with miles, you're not going to get the same treatment as some Hollywood executive who is completely useless on the plane, but he paid cash.
No, I hear flight staff actually get like better.
You're talking about flight staff. But we're talking in this instance, we're talking about people. He has very relevant technical skills when it comes to building things up and when they're actually on the ground. But when the ship's in transit, yeah, he knows engineering, but the ship's in transit. The ship's already built. It should just function. So why would they give him a special ticket? The skills matter when he lands and gets on the ground.
Okay, this is all mostly like things that just irk.
Yeah. So what you're saying? Sorry, let me just. I'll capstone this thought. What you're saying makes perfect sense if it was like a planetary government sending a ship, right? And it was purely like a lottery based on who we need to colonize this planet. But it wasn't. It was a corporate ship. It was a for-profit, like, private enterprise to go off and colonize this other planet. And that's why it's just who paid the most cash for the ticket that's going to actually, get the fancy breakfast.
Yeah. Like I said, that's just the stuff that kind of irked me. What the major flaw was, first off, the biggest one, in my opinion, why didn't they just wake up everybody?
So, there's a reason for that.
From the start.
There's a reason for that. Reason number one, he tried. But he tried to wake up the people who actually were going to be able to help them, the crew and the staff. But they were in locked, sealed bunkers.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, they were.
No, the captain was in one of the regular pods.
No, he wasn't. He was behind the door in the crew area.
Was he?
He was.
I suppose they never showed his pod, did they?
They didn't, but the whole, like, he was able, like, the sealed crew area, that's where he came out of. He was able to open the bridge himself because he was one of the crew, but the crew had separate space, so they could have woken up, like, a ton of other people, but they would have just been other random yahoos. It wouldn't have solved anything. And it would have been condemning those people to die of old age on the ship, just like him.
I still think it would have, because there would be.
This is why
be someone who had some level of authority that wasn't sealed inside the goddamn bunker. 'Cause, I mean, that ship is freaking huge.
In theory,
the command area was tiny.
I agree. If I were designing that ship, that's the way I would set it up. But that's not how they set it up in the movie. Like, in the movie, all the other random people were in one spot, and all the crew were in a segregated, lockdown area.
That lockdown area was tiny.
Yeah, well,
Like
if the ship... But think about it. If the ship is capable for traveling for 98 years with no human interaction,
yeah,
then you don't need a huge crew, because most things are going to be automated.
Yeah, but you need, like, the landing is, like, the hardest part, dare I say it. Like, you can ride a bike.
That is true. So
easy, but stopping is no thing.
Sci-fi wise, maybe there's some flaws. But that's why I go back to, the story isn't about, like, it's not a hard sci-fi series. It's a characters drama. It's about these two people who are stuck in this area. One of them who was stuck all alone and then made a very desperate, horrible decision. And then that other person having to live with the consequences of the first person's desperation.
Okay, one more breaking theory, alright?
Mm-hmm.
Last one, because there are more, but I won't go into it. The guy is, like, face first in front of, like, a freaking volcano worth of heat.
Yeah.
Like, literal years worth of this huge engine building up heat, and it gets released on him in the space of about 10 seconds.
Yep.
One little panel wouldn't do jack shit.
No. You're talking the climactic scene there. Yeah, he should have been crispy fried bacon.
And then he should have died from oxygen, from being exposed to no atmosphere.
Yep.
And then he is diagnosed as dead. And he's still, with the power of magic and love, back to life. I'm
100% on board with you on that point. The climactic part of the movie, there is some very soft science fiction. But that's why I say that I like the movie not for the sci-fi elements. I like the movie because it has a very well-written character drama in it. And what you were saying about the woman earlier, about how she's kind of like a wet towel compared to some of her other roles. It's true, but I think that's by design. She has her strong moments. She's clearly a very a woman with conviction and somebody who has goals in mind. And I think she reacts pretty accurately to someone who has come from that kind of pampered lifestyle, but who also has conviction and has goals, and then having all of that shattered. And I think she rightfully acts kind of indignant, and in some instances maybe justifiably, but a bit childish.
despite all this, like I say, it'll actually a really good movie.
Yeah,
and I
watch the
enjoy
movie.
it,
Yeah, all
So it
keep
may sound like
every complaint that we're talking about right now. They're blemishes on an otherwise beautiful movie.
yeah. And
Take a
if you just
watch.
see it as a social experiment, then
Yeah.
better.
If you don't watch it if you're looking for hard sci-fi, but if you're looking for like a good character story and an example of very well written character drama,
Popular actors.
yeah. Chris Pratt wasn't super popular at that time. It came out in 2016.
Yeah, I mean, these days, every single one of the actors is recognizable. Well, maybe not the barkeep.
Hmm. I've only seen him in one other thing, a movie or a TV show called Altered Carbon. Very good series.
Huh.
Well, they came out with season 2, and I watched the first half of the first episode of season 2 and just got bored. Season 1 was great, and I feel like they started. Actually, that's a really good transition into what I really want to talk about. Is a new series that I just picked up this week and binge watched like the entire first season in a matter of days.
You're talking about Altered Carbon, right?
No.
Okay.
I used Altered Carbon as a jumping off point. I was saying in Altered Carbon, the first season was extremely strong. The second season bored me, and that was the transition I used to talk about a series that I've been watching this week.
Which is
Lucifer.
Oh yeah, it's been popping up on my feed for months.
Yeah, Netflix picked it up, and I think they decided to continue it. I think it was a TV show, and then Netflix decided to buy it. The first season of that. So premise of the series, they took the Christian mythos and decided to make a series about it. The idea being Lucifer, the devil, gets sick of presiding over hell and the unfair treatment he's got, and he comes to Earth and opens a nightclub, and where it's just all kinds of sin and debauchery. But he's still got all his divine powers, and then there's drama with people trying to get him back to his job in hell, essentially.
I think of all the businesses one could set up as the devil, like a nightclub, a gambling hall, something like that is very predictable. I want to see the butcher, the devil set up like a bakery,
but
the devil's buns.
So this is one of the reasons I really love the first season, is they actually paid attention to the lore, for lack of a better word. Because the whole story with Lucifer is he was
being the Bible.
Yeah, exactly. Lucifer was supposed to be God's most greatest angel. He was the most beloved. But he led a rebellion against heaven and was cast out and made to be the Lord of Hell. That's the lore behind him, and they really play on that and make it a character drama where he's bitter, and essentially everything he does, every sin and debauchery that he indulges in, is his rebellion against the fact that he feels betrayed. He feels like he was cast out unjustly. Anyway,
a big old sad face.
So the first season really goes into that quite a bit, and they also, but it has this interaction with it's like that's the supernatural element, but it's all encased in like a cop drama, like a CSI style cop drama, where there's a detective, and Lucifer essentially ends up pairing off with this detective and solving crimes at the same time as he's being like this quote, for lack of a better term, charming devil.
Yeah, gotcha. Can I just pause you there for a quick 5 minutes, mate?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Sorry, we're going to do a little transition here. Blue's got to take care of something, but we will be back in like 2 seconds. All right, sorry for that brief interruption. Kind of knew that there might be a little cut in one of these. But just to pick up where I left off. So talking about Lucifer. First season, excellent. They come in with the cop drama, but there's a heavy supernatural element. There's this idea that there's this dangerous person. Like, he's not a person, like the devil. He's there. He's got this dangerous, like, evil
if he's
side.
the devil, doesn't he have, like, why would he set up his...
But
like, it's not like he needs money.
he doesn't need money. The reason he did it in the series, and this becomes obvious as you watch the series, is that he is looking to get away. Like, he never felt at home in heaven. He never felt at home in hell, because that hell was his punishment to lord over it. And so he's trying to find a place to belong. Like, that's a heavy element of the series. And so he did this basically to have a place of his own, to have his own little castle, essentially.
Right.
There's a few things in the series you really can't read into too far, and that's one of them. But I liked the first season because it was heavy in that supernatural element. They had a little bit of that cop drama and investigational element there, and it interacted with that supernatural element. And the thing is, he's upfront with everyone about him being the devil, but most people just think he's either an actor or insane, or deranged in some way. And so no one takes him seriously, but a few people like push him too far over the edge, and he reveals it to him, and he drives them insane, like by horrifying them in some way. And that sort of like dynamic, I love series. There's a couple of series that I've seen like that. An anime in particular that pops to mind is Elfen Lied. This idea where you as the audience realize that this perfectly normal person is interacting with someone that appears perfectly normal but is fully capable of just slaughtering this person outright.
Yeah.
And that tension from that interaction, like, is really...
The thing is that he has literally nothing that can hurt him at all.
They introduce something, though. That's the thing.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. But
So-
nothing should be stronger than the
No,
devil.
no, I know, but think of... So, yes, you're right. Let me continue with my synopsis, and then I can tell you where I think this goes off the rail. I do agree with you. They needed to introduce something like that. So one of the first things that happens is one of the other angels gets sent down to bring him back, essentially, and they can obviously hurt each other. Humans can't hurt him. He gets shot several times in the series, and he's fine. But he also starts to realize that this kind of detective that he's with, first of all, he can't use his like kind of hypnotic charm on her for some reason, and then whenever he's around her, he can actually be harmed. He can actually start to bleed and take damage from mundane mortal objects, and that becomes a kind of a dynamic throughout the series, him figuring that out in the first season. Then we get to the second season.
Yeah.
And the second season opens strong. They introduce like kind of a new threat, a new dynamic to it. But then they just flounder around, and it turns into CSI with a supernatural skin, rather than like a supernatural show with a little bit of investigation and CSI kind of stuff tacked on. And that's why I initially watched it. Anyway, go on.
The process is good, but I feel already like there's a lot of fault. Man, this whole fucking episode is just going to be me complaining about TV shows and movies. Some that I haven't even seen. Like, okay, if the devil can bleed,
Yeah.
then you can kill the devil.
Yes.
If there's no devil, then everyone on the planet would be like, great, if we go to hell, it'll be a fucking vacation because there's no devil. Let's just do the worst goddamn things possible. So, like, even the angels can't be going, ooh, we better rough up the devil because if the devil dies, then they're fucked.
This is a point... Sorry, I do have to jump in here. This is a point they address in the series.
Okay, cool.
So, the idea is hell is going to exist no matter what. Lucifer was sent there as a punishment to preside over it and ensure that things kept going. He's punishing the wicked, and so on, and making sure that the wicked got their appropriate punishments.
Yeah, so if he's not...
But if he's not there, one of the big plot points is one of the other angels is having to sort of like part-time step in and preside over it, since he's just decided to fuck off to Earth.
That's hilarious.
And that's one of the primary like motivations of that angel to get him back. He's like, I don't want this fucking job. It's your job.
Oh,
and
yeah, I'm just saying, Greg, I'm not the devil. I'm in part-time down here.
But you're right.
Told you've been a very bad boy. You need a good spanking.
You're making fun of it, but that literally is the way. That's the way they treat it. I was saying the same thing watching it. I was like, this is. It became, but there was still that heavy supernatural element in the first part of the series. When it gets to season 2, it literally becomes that. That joke that you just made, that's the extent of the supernatural shit. Like, they take what was such a strong opening, and these really interesting characters and this tense like power dynamic between the humans and the supernatural beings, and they systematically just neuter it throughout the rest of the series until at the end, like, the devil is less threatening than like an 8-year-old that's the daughter of one of the cops.
Right.
Like,
he becomes softened by humanity.
Yeah, not only softened by, like, he still has his powers. There's several points in the series where the writing is very inconsistent in the second season, and a little bit in the first season too. Like, in some scenes, he can like jump on top of a building in the blink of an eye and like throw someone across a room that like weighs like 3 times his size, or 3 times his weight. But then in other scenes, like, he's suddenly scared because, like, a 90-pound woman holds a pair of scissors to his throat. It's like, you could just blink behind her and punch her heart out. Like, why are you afraid? Like, I'm not saying he should do that, but why is he afraid?
He's the devil. He can do whatever the fuck
Exactly.
he wants.
That's what starts to piss me off in the second season. Like, they take these powerful characters, and the reason that these powerful characters didn't, like, just basically walk roughshod over the humans in their path was because there were certain restrictions in place. Either it was because it was one of the angels and they're not allowed to directly harm mortal humans by, God's decree, or it was because it was the devil, Lucifer, and he had this kind of mild sympathy for them, where he didn't want to harm them, he wanted to live among them until one of them crossed him. But in the second season, they sort of forget that, and they just treat all of these supernatural characters as if they're humans who can occasionally make their eyes glow.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, I'm hoping it gets better. There's 5 seasons. First season, right, I really liked. I binge watched it in a couple days because it had me hooked. I'm watching the second season on pure momentum because
you're hoping to get through it, and maybe it's like a Peaky Blinders thing where I'll pick up again.
Yeah, exactly. Because Peaky Blinders, I think it was season 3, got kind of dull, and I was just like, ugh. But by the time it got to season 4 and 5, it started to pick up again. Yeah. And I'm hoping it's the same thing. Like, I'm hoping season 2 is just a slump.
So, first off, when you're drawing or painting or something, right? You never use in my experience, you never use straight black, right? You never use the color black. Because once you do, you cannot get any darker than that, right?
Yeah.
By the same logic, if you start off using the devil, where do you go from the devil?
You have to invent new supernatural characters to kind of combat it.
Are more powerful. And there's only one person, as far as I can tell in that series, who's more powerful, and that's God. That leads me to my second question: is there Morgan Freeman in the film?
So far, no. But they do a good job, and they do stick close to, like, I love using the phrase "the lore." They do a good job using the actual, like, Christian. Yeah, exactly. Using the Christian canon to to bring in characters that are equally or more powerful.
Right.
Like the devil wasn't even like he was supposed to be one of God's angels, but there are literally, I think in the Bible, hundreds of angels, maybe not hundreds, but definitely.
There's a lot of things that way, yeah.
So, and he wasn't even the most powerful angel. It's one of the reasons that he led a rebellion against heaven in the Bible, and he got cast out for that reason.
Wasn't David the most powerful? I don't know much about the Bible.
No, David wasn't an angel. He was a dude.
I thought he led the forces of God. Who am I thinking of?
You might be right, actually.
Oh my god, did I out religion you?
You may have.
Oh my god.
Like most religious people, it's been a while since I've read the Bible.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But
Yeah.
But point being, they do a very good job, like in the first season and the beginning of the second season, they do such a good job sticking to that lore and that like deep religious kind of like pool of characters.
Please tell me that they reference, because there's so many great jokes that could come about from this. If like Lucifer ran into the Westboro Baptist Church, for example,
They have not plumbed those depths yet.
they haven't gone like down the. I was gonna say the private.
They did make one very lazy joke about Trump in the second
really?
season.
That's kind of a bit too.
It's too like it felt like, okay, hey, look at us, we're a TV show, we're talking about the current day.
Yeah. We've got political views.
It's lazy writing, but it doesn't matter. They do that, but they haven't plumbed those depths yet. One thing that pisses me off, and there are several episodes where I literally predicted the entire plot just based on modern day tropes.
Yeah.
Like there was an episode where some guy, it's about social media, and some guy is finding people on social media who have uploaded terrible things, like revenge porn or videos of like prank videos that went too far and things like that. And some guy takes it upon himself, or sorry, some person takes it upon themselves to avenge these by brutally murdering the people that uploaded them.
Okay.
And so it becomes
Death Note style.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not like Death Note. It was just you wrote the name, they got a heart attack. This guy, like, I think one of the first ones, he literally burned a guy to death at the stake and put like accelerant on his crotch, so his balls burned first.
Right.
Brutal stuff. But what they did in the series, and they tried for most of the episode to make you think that it was this one woman who was the one who was doing it. And it's a series, it's like a mainstream TV show in the modern day, and so I immediately was like, no, she didn't do it. A, she's not white. B, she's a woman. They will not make her the bad guy. Like, and sure enough, it wasn't her. There's a plot twist at the very end where they bring in some random character to be the bad guy.
Right. Okay.
There were several tropes like that. Like I was able to that's maybe one of the most on the nose examples. But there are several episodes where I'm like, just by stereotyping, I'm like, yep, I know what's going to happen in this episode. Yep,
I know what the mainstream media's opinion is.
Yeah. I know what not even the media, just like the mainstream zeitgeist.
Public opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way that Hollywood kind of works now, and not that it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just overdone.
Yeah,
like
there's been a lot of
female
strength films.
It's like westerns, right? Westerns were like a hugely popular thing, and then everyone was doing like a western style movie, like a Dirty Harry lookalike sort of thing, and they got overdone, and now no one really does them anymore. It's the same thing. Like in the modern day, there's this new kind of zeitgeist, this new kind of trope for movies and TV shows, and it was interesting and cool back in like 2013 and 2014 and 2015. But now in 2020, it's just overdone.
To be fair, there are a few specialist cowboy-esque films that are still being released, like Hateful Eight.
Okay,
I think that was
they're making a comeback. I do want to stop us here though, because we are now with the mild transition that we did. Segment 2 is now close to 50 minutes long.
Okay, so the transition was like 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So we're gonna end segment 2. So because we were at 27 minutes when we did the break, and now we're at 15 minutes. So we're coming close to 50 minutes here. I don't want segment 2 to be huge, so I'm gonna do an outro here, and then we can move on to segment 3, which at this point I think is just going to be continuing this discussion because I really want to keep going with this.
Mayhaps.
Or maybe you have an idea. Either way. If you're listening to this during the week, this is the end of segment 2. If you're listening to the full podcast, you'll hear us again in just a few seconds with a brief transition. But either way, thank you for listening. And we are back with the TMCJ podcast, name subject to change, segment number 3. We went quite a bit over in segment 2 because we took a little break in the middle and sort of lost track of time. So yeah, segment 3. This is probably gonna be a little bit of a long one. Well, the podcast in general. Segment 3, we'll try to keep it between the lines. Maybe
okay.
Hey, fuck it. Maybe this one segment will be an hour and 35 minutes.
Maybe. Well, let's not scare them.
All right.
What we talked about before the cut, because there was something you wanted to continue talking about, and I've already forgotten it.
I was talking about Lucifer. I was ranting about Lucifer, and I was ranting about kind of the story.
Oh.
One of the conclusions that I came to, and one of the things, and I may be giving the series too much credit, is it might be talented writers trying to like get good work out in kind of a crowd of hacks, because near the middle to the end of season 2 the supernatural element starts to pick back up again, which is what I really liked about the first season. But the buddy cop drama thing just keeps going. They even get their like knockoff like forensic girl who's quirky and nerdy, and which I feel like every cop series has now. They all have to have the quirky, nerdy CSI girl.
Right.
Again, this goes back to my point. There are certain modern tropes in movies and TV shows that are just done to death, and
Right.
I'm just like I'm eager for anything that has any sort of creative.
Yeah, the devil is a pretty new concept,
Well,
especially in such a civilian atmosphere.
Exactly. You've got things done with Norse mythology. You've got things done with like other different religions, being brought to Earth, right? Like, oh, you got stuff with like, hey, this guy's Zeus, but there hasn't really been a concept. It was a unique idea.
He's asthmatic. Bam.
It was I'm getting lost in the weeds here, but it was a unique idea that I really wanted them to explore, and I feel like they just didn't. They decided to go the route of just having a generic cop drama with the supernatural element like slapped on as an afterthought. But near the middle of season 2, the supernatural element is an entire side plot. There's this whole conflict between kind of the unseen God, the few angels that are around and have come to Earth for the purposes of bringing Lucifer back, and Lucifer himself, and one of their creators that wasn't God, so essentially God's wife. There's a conflict going on there with some intrigue and some really cool elements, but it's like that will go on for like a scene or two, and then they'll cut back to the generic, boring cop drama.
Right.
And so it made me start to think maybe there's some really good writers, and they're the ones working on the supernatural bit, and they just brought in some hacks to work on the fluff that surrounds the supernatural bit.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it sounds like an adult version of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I don't know. I haven't seen it myself.
I mean, I haven't either, but it that comparison does make.
What I will say I have seen, and it's another update one because I think I've brought this up for several weeks in a row now, but I love it so much. Helsing. I'm on episode 7 now. Well, we've just finished episode 7.
Yeah.
We've got Nazis. We've got the Catholic Church teaming up with the KKK.
Oh, is it the Catholic dude with the priest with the knives?
Well, yes, but he's been throughout the whole series. He is pretty damn cool.
Dude, that guy is a fucking
Catholic guy,
badass. Like he's just like every scene before. Okay, so you need to listen to his voice lines in Japanese because the Japanese voice actor is amazing. Like he's
the English one's pretty good as well.
Okay,
I must say.
So in the Japanese version, he's like, you know, he's going up to somebody and he's got his knives and he's taking shots and he's about to throw them and he's like, so he's saying in Japanese something like, yeah, I'm gonna smite you or whatever, and then he just every sentence he just finishes with, Amen. Every sentence, like the Japanese guy, it's Japanese, Amen. And then he just starts fighting.
Out there, by the way.
Yeah, I saw I was maxing my mic out when I said that. But it's just watch just his scenes in Japanese. It's fucking amazing.
I looked up. I had to look up because I was very confused why the KKK were involved with the Catholic Church because theoretically that's very opposite, right?
Yeah, they were Protestant.
They were not actually KKK. They have the same outfits, except these were Spanish festival gear or something.
Oh yeah, Inquisitors.
Something maybe. I mean, that sounds pretty similar.
Spanish Inquisition. I mean, that's where my mind jumped to, is Spanish Inquisition. This is a very religion-heavy podcast, but in the context of TV shows,
right? I mean, I don't know. Okay, hang on. So the Spanish Inquisition, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one expects them, except they've got like the classic English flag painted all over them.
Well, there's kind of a reason for that, and that's
I'm sure there is. I just don't understand it.
Have you looked at most of the flags in Europe? They're all crosses of some kind. So the English flag is the cross of St. George, right? I don't know why.
Yes,
I know that, but just that's what it is. Also, our flag has a much better name than yours. Just want to say that right now. American flag, it's called Old Glory. Really fucking cool name.
Sounds like a whiskey.
It does, honestly. That's why I like it.
Anyway. That's the only reason you like your flag. You heard it here first, folks.
God damn it. No, I think it's a badass name. What's Union Jack? That's your big one. Cross St. George and Union Jack.
Britain's flag. That's the British
that's Britain's flag, but England is Cross St. George. It's I mean, it sounds like you do. Posh.
Wow. Fuck you, dude.
All right. But but seriously, I think that there's a ton of European flags that involve crosses. Most of the Nordic nations, Switzerland.
Yeah, they were literally wearing Crusader armor.
They were?
Yeah, they were. You made that sound like a question. Was it a question or a statement?
Well, I was asking you if they were wearing Crusader armor.
I mean, we didn't. The Crusaders didn't wear the pointy white hoods.
Yeah, Blue. Why don't you tell me about that time you retook the Holy Land?
Shut up. They're like the stereotypical, like the shield with the George's cross on it.
Mm-hmm.
They even got the fucking pole arms, which aren't really pole arms; they're guns. But
yeah.
And then obviously, yes, there's the insanely powerful Nazis who are
the zombie Nazis
for some reason. Like, it's weird how the Wild Geese, the extreme mercenary super group, were utterly annihilated by like one or two zombies, and yet these assholes in KKK hoods are able to match them.
You know,
One
it's
for one.
I quick it's sort of related. You were talking earlier about, like, you know, once you have the devil, like, where do you go from there? Like, kind of that power curve there. You need to
Yeah.
introduce something more powerful. I feel like zombie Nazis are a natural result of a similar kind of mindset. They're like, what's something really evil we can put in our series? Oh, Nazis. Well, shit, how do we
Yeah.
get more evil than Nazis?
Right.
Zombie Nazis. Oh, wait, how do we get
And
even
they're
more
kind
evil
of
than that?
random tropes.
KKK zombie Nazis.
No, the KKK weren't zombies or Nazis.
I know.
They're just
I just
Catholic.
like. No, they weren't. Okay, KKK literally was Protestant.
No, I know they weren't literally the KKK, but they looked like they were Spanish Inquisition.
So this I'm
Not Nazis
gonna
as
take a
well.
brief non sequitur to qualify the statement I just made, and the reason I know this, because again, talking about history. In my hometown, the KKK back in the, I want to say it was the 50s or 60s or 70s, old enough that it was black and white photos. They did a march through my hometown, which was
Ugh.
at that point mostly Irish immigrants, and you're supposed to be allowed to peaceably assemble and do whatever the kind of ugly, hateful shit you want. Yeah, the fucking
So
Irish
into the
didn't
thing.
want to hear any of that shit, and they fucking ran them out of town. There's photos of the march, and then, like, subsequent photos of them running the fuck away.
Yeah, I remember like reading about that kind of thing in some of the Ben Elton books. I vaguely remember there was one book in particular where it was there was a big march on the courthouse by these people, and they were like, "Oh, we are allowed to do it peacefully," but everyone was like, "Nah."
I mean, the thing is, you are supposed to be allowed to do that sort of thing peacefully. Just
Yeah,
no matter what
I
your message
understand
is,
why.
it can be.
Yeah.
We're venturing into dangerous territory here, but no matter, you're supposed to be able to do that peacefully, at least in the U.S. And if you, the moment it becomes violent, whoever started the violence is technically in the wrong. But nobody had any pity for those people, so it's.
Or I think the moment it becomes personal. Like if you
Well,
if
yeah.
you're standing in a street and like shouting abuse at one person, for example,
Well, right.
I think that person's got every right to open.
It's like
Kind of look back
one,
on you.
like there's a protest and one guy's holding up a sign that says "Fred's an asshole."
Yeah. Like, there he is, that's Fred. Yay, get Fred.
just there's a protest going down the street and one guy's holding up a sign, "Fuck Bill." Yeah, you're right. That's when it's kind of up. What the hell were we even? We've gone so
I
far
don't know.
off
I'm
the
just thinking
rails.
about Greg the Angel in Hell now. Fuck Greg.
All right, segment 3
Fuck.
this week is literally just chaos. We
It's
didn't
every
plan
week,
anything,
mate.
so it's just chaos. Oh my
yes,
god.
Helsing, very good episode. I thought it was actually going to be like the final episode, then I was like, hang on, I saw about 3 more episodes at least in the
Yeah,
season.
they keep going. They keep going after that.
And yes, really love that. I can't remember the guy's name, but the one you were talking about, the one with the big guy, the Amen guy.
Amen.
Very cool. So him, Alucard, and one of the Nazi leaders like face up against each other.
Mm.
You don't even see the Nazi leader fight. Like, from the moment that they're standing in like a
He was the
triangle
referee.
to be all like dramatic and shit, and then the next scene onwards, it's just religious dude and Alucard.
Literally,
That's it.
he's the referee.
Yeah, I think they must have had a scene for him, and then they were just like, "Nah, it takes up."
Yeah,
too
no
much
one.
time,
Yeah,
we're gonna cut him out."
we're just gonna kill him off camera.
Right, like he's been in so many background shots. Like he's been behind the Nazi leader
So
for the whole series, and yet you never get to see him fight.
I kind of want to transition like a little bit back
You want to
to.
transition? Oh my god, Kaiser, I'm so glad you came to me with this in the podcast. Right.
I'm not even gonna respond. I am not going down that fucking rabbit hole.
Okay.
So I wanted to transition back like to something that we were talking about earlier. We were talking about Peaky Blinders and killing people off camera. When you're talking about the Nazi guy just kind of disappearing, he's a big villain, and then suddenly he's just not there. Like I feel like before I move on, if you build up a villain like that, I feel like you need to give him his just desserts. Otherwise, the audience isn't going to leave satisfied. Like
yeah, you need to
like if you build up
him
somebody
a
as
proper
being
leader.
as being hated, as being evil, as being a major antagonist. Yeah, the audience wants him to die, but it's got to be satisfying in terms of storytelling.
And that doesn't mean like it has to like torture the shit out of him.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think that's
It could just be
but
the
just
main
needs to be-
character walking up and putting, a 9 between his eyes. Like that's
Yeah. That's dramatic.
Yeah. But it has to be appropriately done in terms of the story. I was thinking, and this isn't a bad character, this isn't an antagonist, but Freddie Thorne from Peaky Blinders, the first season.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the actor wanted to leave the series. He dies off camera in between season 1 and 2.
He does, doesn't he? He's
Yeah.
not really an enemy. He's a bit of a meh.
He's like a what is it? An ally brought to them through circumstance. He was like he was a former friend who became a rival who came back to become a friend.
Kind of, yeah.
Friend might be the wrong word, maybe ally.
Communist.
Communist.
Because that's what he was.
Yeah, he was. Back in the day where everyone was still kind of sorting out those brand new political philosophies.
In Birmingham.
In Birmingham. Oh my god, the
That's pretty
fucking
good.
that was the bartender. He's like, the thing is, you're bad men, but you're all bad men.
Well, you're doing pretty good with the accents today.
Thank you.
I'm sure I'll be told by other people that it was not. But for me, it's better than I could do.
I got a good ear. Whenever learning like different languages, getting the pronunciation right has always been easiest for me.
Yeah, that's kind of been my thing as well. It's like, great, you sound Spanish, but what you're saying isn't really Spanish.
You sound Spanish, but you sound like a Spanish 2-year-old.
Yeah. A very fluent Spanish 2-year-old. That's the greatest, like, friendly backhander, isn't it?
It really is. I think that is God, that is a talent, is being able to insult somebody while making it sound like a compliment.
Yeah, just leaving them confused.
Just flummox somebody. They're just sitting there like, did he like what I said, or did he just call me a douche?
I feel like you could really practice that. If you're like going out for a meal or something, you could be like, oh, when you finish the meal, you're like, oh, it was really salty, which I kind of liked.
There's my sister's husband, right? He and I, when I was on vacation a few weeks back, out on the beach, he and I were chatting, and he was telling me about a couple of coworkers he had. One of them being very incompetent and a bit dense, and the other one being his boss was, well, not his boss, but at least kind of fed up with his incompetence. And the way he described it was, and this was in Spanish because he's from the Caribbean. I won't say exactly which country, but he the way the guy told it to the more dense guy was, he was like, oh, you're, it sounds better in Spanish, but essentially it's like, oh, your head is so smooth, because the guy was shaved head, bald, But what he meant was your brain has no creases. It's just a ball. There's not much in there. And the people around him got it, but the guy he was saying it to was just like, "Oh yeah, thank you. Oh yeah." He's like, "Oh yeah, I got a great head." Like just like completely dense, didn't get it. I don't know.
I mean, maybe he didn't. He was just taking it well.
It's possible, but from the story again, I'm getting this story secondhand.
Yeah.
But from the way he told, but it reminded me of that, like being able to insult people in a compliment. It's like giving somebody a pie filled with pigeon shit.
Well, I mean, I think that's a bad thing one way or the other. But I understand your sentiment.
That was just... Yeah, I don't know. I pulled that off the top of my head. Oh, there's the cork again.
Yeah, sorry. It's a new bottle. I can't help it.
Oh, man. I'd like to grab a drink to close this thing out. But after this, we've got D&D.
We do indeed. Oh,
Dungeons and Dragons, for anyone that's listening. We haven't talked about that at all during this podcast. I don't want to go too deep into it, but we do play D&D. We are fucking nerds.
Nerds. Yes. I don't know. I think the term nerd actually is not really... I feel like it used to be a lot worse.
It's become kind of a term of... It's so ubiquitous.
Almost.
Exactly. It's become so ubiquitous that like it doesn't really mean anything. It's like calling someone a nerd is like calling, I don't know, someone a golfer, I guess. Like it's describing an interest that they're doing. It's not really a stigma anymore.
Yeah, except nerd is more vague. Like it could be just intelligent.
I remember.
You paint Warhammer models 24/7.
Yeah, that's a little bit more intense. Yeah, sorry, Duncan, if you're listening to this.
Oh, he doesn't paint that much.
No, he doesn't, but he's really into it. And honestly, I have envy to people who actually spend that much time like going into that sort of thing.
Yeah, because when they get really good, it's like, oh shit, this isn't just like you being a weirdo that. Again, I'm sorry, Duncan. I did not mean to come out that way. After a bit of time, it's like, holy shit, this person's actually an artist.
Yeah.
Because of their hobby.
They're putting.
It's really impressive.
Wait, I'm stuttering. There's a lecture that I remember listening to back when I first got out of college. There was this series of lectures that were published on YouTube from. This one professor used to put everything up on YouTube, and it was something I was listening to, and they were talking about the things that like motivate people to actually get things done, like to work, essentially. And I think it was about economics and like business, and they were talking about ways to motivate people to work. And one of the points the guy made was, like, think about this. Why do people get up early on the weekends and practice playing an instrument? Why do they go out and play a game or something like that in their spare time? It's because they feel good gaining mastery, like getting good at something and actually creating
something. They break down to about 3 things, which is boredom, fame, and money. Like, as a general extent of what you want to get out of things.
Okay, but you went completely in the materialistic, cynical direction, and I didn't, which is strange. Normally, that's the direction I go in.
But, I mean, fame and money, yeah. But, like, that's the whole reason. Everyone's like, I remember going to a university, and I was looking at them, and I was trying out, seeing what they were about, kind of thing. And we were doing like this little interview kind of things with the teacher. It was one-on-one. So I sat down with this guy, and he was flicking through my work, and he's like, "What are you actually expecting to get out of this course?" And I was like, "Well, a job, and that kind of thing, like experience in the industry."
Yeah. So I love that response, by the way. A job.
Well, yeah,
but it's true. I'm just It's
And he was
blunt
like,
and it's
"That's not
straightforward.
right. You don't come into this line of work to get work." Like, what? I need a living. That's why you kind of do, like, don't get me wrong, I enjoy doing it.
There,
That's why I'm taking this avenue. But at the end of the day, it's so that I can earn a living and survive.
yeah. There,
And he just get that.
there was well, of course he didn't because he's a university professor.
It was an art thing, all right. So I suppose. I mean,
There was a it's believe me, it pervades in the sciences too. I went to an engineering college, and even the most practical professors there who actually had side ventures and patents and things to their name were much more easygoing and flippant than people in the actual industry. But that statement that you just that story you just told reminded me of a quote from a movie. This guy is telling a story about how they were why they moved states in the U.S. and he's like, I wanted to be in the movie, and we moved to California, and I wanted to be because I wanted to be in the movie industry, and my brother Dick, and then the brother goes, all right, and my brother Dick wanted to be, and then he goes, employed, and but.
yeah.
But it was that, like, the one guy is this starry-eyed dreamer. He's out there for his passion. The other guy's like, I just want to work.
Yeah.
I want to feed. I want to have food.
It's really refreshing to hear that kind of truth, I think, because when you go to a job interview, you say all these things like, "Oh, I'm a really hard worker. I listen a lot."
Yeah,
Everyone
I
says
have
that
people
shit.
skills and things like that.
Yeah, just give us the fucking truth. You're here for money,
I
like everybody else.
This is a pet peeve of mine, in my line of employment.
Yeah.
Everyone is so touchy-feely now.
Mm.
It's like, can we just... I'm a big fan of the word incompetent. I love that word because it describes when people do a shitty job so well. It's like why didn't this get done properly?
Your actual job.
What?
I probably don't want to be too close to your actual job.
Well, no, this is a couple companies ago, so I don't mind telling this story. I don't. Yeah, you're right. I don't want to talk about my current job, because that would it would be in bad taste. It would be in bad taste, and B, I don't want to get fired. But talking about like previous jobs, there were situations where I had to do an evaluation of a clean room that was constructed by another engineer. And
I think I remember that.
Yeah, and they were asking, like, it's like, okay, and I found tons of flaws. I'm like, okay, this is a problem. This should not be in here. It's not up to regulation, not up to standard. And I went through like all of the things, and one of the questions that was it was a discussion. There was a couple engineers in the room. There was a couple people from the company in the room, and one of the people asked, like, okay, why do you think this was the case? And me, being the brash 20-something engineer that I was just like, because the guy who built it was incompetent.
Yeah.
Dead fucking silence in the room.
Super cheap.
He was being extremely cheap. The guy underbid the project significantly, and so he was cutting corners all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm being very, very vague with this story. On purpose, because even though I don't work at that place anymore, I don't want to disparage them because they've come a long way. They've actually
it's about
made
the message, not the people.
They've made significant improvements, and largely because of the contributions that like the engineers that were working alongside me made while I was there. Like we did a lot of improvements, but the guy who initially did everything, he underbid the project, he used shoddy materials, he cut corners left and right, and he took advantage of a smaller company that didn't have the money to really hold him to his contract. And unfortunately that sort of stuff happens to small companies. But I again, in that, like, I told it like it was. I was like, the guy was incompetent. He sold you a fucking like shitty product. And he's expecting you not to go after him, but I'm not gonna like sugarcoat it.
No,
it was shit.
Yeah, You're like a mechanic that looks at a car and is like, yeah, no, you say this guy fixed it up for you, but it's not passing the MOT.
Yeah, exactly. It's fucking broke. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be like, oh, maybe, maybe the tires could be a little bit more full. No, it's a flat tire. Like, just. And again, this is going back to what I said at the very beginning of the podcast, the whole Boston thing. I'm a fan of blunt language. Just tell it like it is.
I mean, it's good to be upfront and stuff in quite a few sectors, particularly where it revolves around money. Because maybe I'm very cynical right now. I'm aware of that. Yes, but you don't want to be all ifs and buts when you're talking about something that can literally cost someone their lifestyle.
Yeah, wishy-washy, like a little bit of maybes. Oh, I feel this is right. It's like, no.
Yeah.
You better have some hard fucking hard fucking data.
Yeah.
That's what you need to have when you go into
that.
We were talking about what the fuck were we talking about? I mean, to be fair, this is the sort of thing that again, going back to the topic of this podcast, one of the reasons that I initially, and I've said this to Blue personally, but I haven't said it on the podcast itself, one of the reasons that I asked Blue to join me in this podcast was because we have these kinds of random, ranting, meandering conversations that just keep going. And I thought they were interesting. Apparently, if people keep watching it, maybe they think they are too.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I have absolutely no idea how we got here. That's just me,
from KKK Nazis.
Oh, right, we were talking about Helsing.
The workplace.
What? No, fuck off. That was not the transition. The transition was not KKK Nazis to my workplace. I do not work for KKK Nazis. Damn it.
We might have to cut that bit.
No, I'm not cutting that out. That is staying in the podcast. I am not editing things out.
But yeah, it's every week it's a new kind of story, and it's great because, don't get me wrong, we always had these kinds of conversations, like we always have in the years that we've known each other.
Yeah.
But giving it a little time each week to having them, I feel it's really something I do look forward to because it's just a bit of time for ourselves, basically.
I do. I honestly, I'm the same way. I find myself during the week like jotting things down or doing little voice memos, going like, oh, I really want to talk about this during the podcast.
See, I don't, but then I randomly remember them during the podcast. I'm like, oh my god, yeah, the cocaine high panda or something. I don't know.
Cocaine. Wait, sorry, what?
No, that's not a real story. Sorry.
Although that would be an amazing. I bet that panda would have sex.
What the fuck?
Pandas don't fuck. Like pandas in zoos don't fuck. That's why pandas are going extinct.
Does cocaine do that to you though?
I don't know. All right, somebody out there do an experiment. Give a panda cocaine. See if it has sex with another panda, and then film it, and then put it on YouTube, and then make money.
Give it a cigar, put some slow jazz in the background, and then just beckon in.
I think we're at the end of this podcast. We're now talking about coke-infused pandas having sex. I don't know how we got here, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where the hell we'll be next week. But this is the end of segment 3. Thank you so much for listening. If you're listening to the full podcast or just to one of the segments, we really appreciate you tuning in. And and apologize. No, never apologize. Hopefully next week we'll be back to you with a more coherent and interesting topic. But until then, thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.